Hi, this is Kelly Brown, and today we're going to talk about formulas using dates. When you are using dates for formulas, it's important that the data or the date be formatted as a date. By that I mean if you looked at this cell here where we see the date 8/5/2010, which represents August 5th, 2010, when I look in the Home tab selected in the center of the ribbon in the number group, it says date. That tells me that the selected cell is formatted as a date. If I click in the cell below it and then go to that number group, again, I see date. If I were to just type in a random number here and looked in that format number group, it just says general, which means that data is not formatted as anything specific. If I were just to type in a date, type it in correctly, you'll see that Excel formats it on its own, and it uses the word custom because there's a lot of customization to the date format, but it is formatted as a date. And if I were to type in and hit enter, it would automatically format it as a date as well. So just the one thing to watch for if you are trying to create a calculation based on dates, that those dates, you click on each cell and make sure that the date format is indicated. So I want to figure out the number of days between these two dates. How Excel calculates dates is Excel assigns a serial number or an individual unique number for each date that there is in the world. And it's just as a math problem. We'll take one serial number minus the other serial number, and it comes up with a calculation. So I would calculate it just like a math problem. If I do days between, I'll hit equal sign, like that's how I would start a formula. I'm going to click in this cell that has the end date, then minus for the subtraction problem, and then the beginning date, cell reference, hit enter, and there it is. And all this was saying this date, end date, minus the beginning date, and it gave me 814 days between. Excel in 2013 introduced a days function. The days function will do exactly what we did. It'll show the number of days between two dates. And to use it, I'm going to show you if I went to the formula bar and went to date and time and scroll down to I see days. When I place my mouse over days, it says returns the number of days between two dates. So I can just click on days, and then I could do it like this. I could just click in the cell that has the end date and it's asking for there, and then start date, click in the cell that has the beginning date and click OK, and then I get my 814. So what I did as a calculation, I can now do as a function. Another way to do the function is if I know that the days function is the one that works, I can simply start typing it. Equal days, open parenthesis. At that point, the syntax appears for me below, and I can just follow it. I did days, open parenthesis, says the next thing I need, which is in bold, is the end date. So I'm going to click in the cell that has the end date. Then I look here in the syntax, I need a comma. I'm going to add a comma. Then what's in bold is the start date. I'm going to click in the cell that has the start date, and then I'm going to enter the close parenthesis. To make the calculation work, I have to hit the enter key, and here I go again with the 814. Okay, so that's a way to use a new function in Excel for 2013 called the days function. If I wanted to find the weeks between these two dates, I would just do the math problem again. There's no weeks function that I'm aware of. So I'm going to type equals. I'm going to click the end date, the cell that contains the end date. Click minus. Click the cell that has the start date. And if I want to do weeks, I know that will give me days, but weeks are, I would just divide by 7, right? Because there's 7 days in a week. So to do the division, I hit the backslash and I hit the number 7. So if I hit the enter key now, I get a number that doesn't quite look right, because how can the weeks between be more than the days between? So something's not quite right. So I click on the cell that has that answer and I look back at my formula. And I want to think about my order of operations again. If you recall, we follow, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, the very first thing to look for are parentheses. And because we don't have parentheses here, it's just looking from left to right. So I'm sorry, when you follow the order of operations, since there's no parentheses, the next thing it'll look at is exponents, and we don't have any exponents. And the next thing it'll look for is multiplication or division. So if it multiplies this equation first, if it does the multiplication or division in this equation first, it's going to divide, because the first thing where it sees the division is cell B1, which is this cell, divided by 7. But that's not what we want, how we want this equation to work. We want it to first calculate B2 minus B1 and then divide it by 7. So in order to do that, we have to use parentheses. So I'm going to place my open parenthesis before the B2, then let it do the B minus B1, and then after the B1 do the close parenthesis. So now the equation will look at the B2 minus B1 first and then divide it by 7. And then if I hit the enter key, I get a number of 116, and that looks better. Okay, so that's a way to do a basic date formula in Excel.